In this video, you'll learn how to perform some simple and easy analysis of a sales dataset using Python, and without needing to set anything up on your computer. We'll be using Google Colab for this, and even if you're completely new to data analysis, you'll be able to follow along. In the video description below, you will find a link to a Google Colab Notebook which we'll be using. Once you've opened the notebook, you'll need to make a copy of it which you can edit. Simply go to File at the top and down to Save a Copy in Drive. If you're new to Google Colab, all it is a free cloud-based platform that allows you to write and run Python code directly in your browser. It's similar to a Jupyter Notebook, but the big advantage is that you don't need to install anything on your computer. Everything just runs online. This makes it really beginner-friendly and accessible. So the way that Google Colab works is that you can execute your Python code in individual cells here that you can see these black boxes are. This is really useful because it means you can execute little bit chunks of code as and when you need to instead of running the whole file at once. There are multiple different ways to execute a cell. The most simple way is just to click on this little play button here, but you can also hold down Shift and press Enter, or Command and Enter, or Control and Enter, depending on what computer you're using. Today, to keep things simple, we'll just be clicking on this little play button here, which we'll do for this first cell now to run these packages that we're going to need for this tutorial. It might take a minute to execute. The next thing we're going to do is run the second cell, which will import the dataset that we'll be using today, and it will print the first 5 rows of that dataset. So I'll just rerun this, and hopefully you can now see the first 5 rows of the dataset that we'll be using. Now this is an online sales dataset where each row is a sales transaction. So we can see transaction ID, the date that the transaction took place, product category, product name, the units that were sold in that transaction, the unit price individually, and the total revenue and location of the transaction. Now we've assigned this dataset to the df variable, which just stands for data frame. However, this output is only showing us the first 5 rows. We'd like to see this in a bit more detail. So we'll inspect our data by going df.info and run that cell. And now what you can see is a more detailed summary of our dataset. So we can see that we have our column names here and the count of non-null values in those columns. This is showing us that we have 245 complete values in each of our columns. There are no empty values at all in our dataset. And the last bit here just shows us the data type of each column. If you're not familiar with Python data types, I have a super quick 1-minute video that goes through them that you can find the link for in the description below. Okay, so for this tutorial then, with this dataset, what are we going to be doing? Well, at the top here you can see a question which we'll be answering in this tutorial, which is a simple question: which product category and location should we target for our next ad campaign? So what would be the best way to answer that? Well, really we want to look at which locations and which product categories have generated the most total revenue. That seems like a sensible idea, right? So let's do that, shall we? We'll go down here to the next cell down here, where I've added a little note for you that says get product category revenue totals. So we can do that really easily. Let's set a new variable called product category revenue, and we're then going to call our data frame and type dot group by here, and we're going to group by our product categories. And then we're going to tell Python that we want to total our total revenue and dot sum with parentheses after that. So what that's going to do is take our data frame here, group it by product category, and it's going to show us the total revenue summed for each product category. So we're going to click play. Oh, sorry, I forgot to print it. So what we're going to do next is type product category revenue below it, just to print the result below the cell, and we'll click play again. There you go. So what this is showing us is a Pandas series where we have our product category as the index, and we can now see the total revenue per product category. So we can see straight away here that electronics is definitely the product category that brings in the most revenue. So that will be the product category that we use to target for our ad campaign. Whilst this is useful to show, I would quite like to view it as a percentage. It would be nice to know what proportion of revenue electronics takes up. So let's add another note here. We're just going to say get product category revenue percent proportions. So to do this, we're going to need to get the total revenue of all of our product categories, and then we're going to want to divide each of our product category by that total. So to do that, we're going to make a new variable called total revenue, call our data frame, and get our total revenue column. Oops. And then we're going to sum that. So that will give us the total sum of all of these total revenue values. So next we're going to make a product category percentage variable, to which we're going to take our product category revenue series here, product category revenue, and we're going to divide it by our total revenue that we just created up here. Yep. And then we're going to multiply that by 100 just to make it easier to see. So now down here, instead of viewing this series, we want to view our new percentage series. So we'll do that. We'll rerun the cell. And now you can see that electronics actually accounts for 45% of the total revenue. So that's quite a sizable chunk, and definitely the product category that we'd want to target for our next ad campaign here. So this data series tells us quite a lot about our product category revenue. However, it would be useful to view it as a chart, or for the sake of this tutorial, that's what we'll be doing anyway. So down here in this next cell, we want to call our product category percentage series, which we just created. And we want to type .plot, and we want to tell the plot function that we want a bar plot as the kind. Then we're going to type plt.title. And we'll give our chart a title of percentage of total, whoops, some capitals here, revenue by product category. And we're going to also tell it we want a y-axis label of percentage. And we are then going to show the bar plot. Yeah, we'll click play for the cell again. And here you go, you can now see our product category. I might need to zoom out a little bit here. So here we can see our product categories on the x-axis and the percentage of revenue on the y. This really just emphasizes how electronics accounts for so much of the revenue, of the total revenue for this sales data set. So we're happy with our electronics decision, but what about location? Which location is performing best in terms of sales? So to do that, we want to do a similar thing that we did before, but this time we want to include location as well as product category so that we get a sort of better picture of which location accounts for so many of these electronic sales. So to do that, we're going to just add another little note here that says group by both product category and location. Generally, it's a good idea to add notes as you go along when you're programming in Python, as it can really help you better understand your analysis when you come back to it at a later date. So here we're going to type a new variable called product location revenue, and we're going to call our data frame, and like before, we're going to add a group by function, but this time, instead of just putting what we had before, which was product category, we are also going to put location. And because we are now using 2 columns and not 1, we need to pass this as a list. And in Python, you pass lists with square brackets. So we are grouping our data frame by product category and location, which we're passing in a list of square brackets here. And like before, we want to tell Python that we want to see our total revenue. And again, we want to sum it. So we're going to quickly show what that looks like. I'm going to hit play here. So you can see here that with our product category of electronics, North America is by far where most of those sales have come from. And there you go. So what we've done here is we've imported some packages in Python. We've brought in some sales data and assigned it to a variable called df. We've inspected our data to better understand the quality of that data and to understand what's there. We have then looked to answer our question at the top here through some simple analysis by analysing the total revenues of product category. We've then managed to plot that on a chart, and then we've managed to extract the most profitable product category and location to which we can target our next ad campaign. I hope you've been able to follow along and that this tutorial has been useful for you. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more beginner-friendly Python tutorials. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.